Chapter 4 begins with Keniston and Hubble driving deeper into the wasteland beyond Middletown, and the emotional strain is already showing. Keniston is so overwhelmed by the horror of what has happened that he narrows his whole existence down to one small task, keeping the jeep moving over rocks and gullies. He almost laughs at the absurdity of it, a machine chugging steadily across the end of the world, but Hubble stops him at once. That brief moment says a lot about both men. Keniston is close to cracking, and Hubble is barely holding himself together too. Neither of them has language big enough for what they are seeing, so they retreat into motion, silence, and work. As they move across the ochre plain toward the low hills, the landscape feels stripped down to its bones. There is no human noise, no birds, no living richness, only dust, red dusk, wind, and the clattering motor. Then suddenly something breaks the stillness, a shrill cry, and a strange brown furry animal bolts over the ridge. It is about the size of a small horse, awkward and alien, yet recognizably related to life as they know it. Hubble examines the evidence it leaves behind, a digging pit, gnawed bark, the signs of rodent-like teeth, and realizes that some form of animal life still survives on Earth. That discovery matters, but not in any comforting way. These are not thriving creatures in a healthy world. They are desperate scavengers scratching for water in a dead land. The old world has not survived, it has only decayed into hardy remnants. Then comes the chapter's great emotional reversal. Reaching the ridge, they look out and see what appears to be salvation. A city on the plain, white and gleaming beneath a transparent dome. For one ecstatic moment, everything changes. Relief crashes over them. They are not alone. Humanity may still exist. Civilization may still be alive somewhere in this far future. The domed city seems like a miracle, a last refuge of intelligence and order preserved against the dying world outside. That surge of hope is one of the most powerful moments in the chapter because it comes after such desolation. The reader feels the same lift they do. Maybe this is where the story turns. Maybe this is where rescue begins. But even before they arrive, small details begin to poison that hope. There are no roads leading to the city, no aircraft in the sky, no visible activity, no lights, though Keniston tries to explain that away by saying it is still daytime. The city grows larger as they approach, and instead of becoming more alive, it becomes more unnerving. When they finally reach it, they find a broad road and an open portal in the dome. That open portal is the first true answer. If the dome exists to protect life, why is the door standing open? Hubble asks the question, but both men already know the answer their minds are resisting. Inside the dome, the city is warmer than the freezing plain, and at first glance, it is magnificent. This is one of the most haunting descriptive passages so far in the book. The city is not crude or ruined in some barbaric way. It is graceful, symmetrical, elegant, full of lofty buildings and beautiful materials. It is clearly the work of a highly advanced and refined humanity. But it is also utterly empty. Dust drifts through the boulevards, wind whispers through the parks and doorways, countless windows stare down like blind eyes. Keniston and Hubble drive through the avenues with their own motor sounding obscenely loud in the silence, calling out, sounding the horn, searching desperately for some answer from the dead streets. They want to force life to appear. They want one face, one voice, one sign that mankind endured, but there is nothing. The whole place is a shell. That is the real heartbreak of the chapter. The domed city is not merely abandoned architecture. It is evidence that humanity fought to survive and failed. People saw the death of the world coming. They built protection. They enclosed cities. They devised hydroponic agriculture. They planned. They engineered. They used intelligence and beauty and foresight. And still, they died. That realization is what crushes Keniston. If even these future humans, armed with knowledge and advanced science, could not stay alive on Earth, what chance does little Middletown have? The discovery does not merely say that civilization is gone. It says that civilization already made its last stand and lost. Hubble, however, does not give up intellectually. He examines the city more closely and notices the great hydroponic tanks. When he later finds that reservoirs of water still remain beneath them, he rules out the simplest explanation. The city's people did not die because they ran out of water. Something else ended them. That detail matters because it means the situation is not yet fully understood. Hubble is already thinking ahead, already trying to reason through survival. Keniston, by contrast, is sinking into despair. He sees only the emotional truth, a dead race, a barren earth, and the apparent certainty that Middletown is doomed. This contrast between the two men becomes increasingly important. Hubble is the one trying to hold on to method and purpose when Keniston is close to emotional collapse. As evening falls, the chapter shifts again from cosmic wonder to immediate survival. Night on this elder Earth is not just dark, it is lethal. The cold deepens with terrifying speed. The red sun sinks, the strange stars brighten, and the two men hurry back across the plain, gripped by dread. When they finally crest the ridge and see Middletown's familiar lights shining in the darkness, the sight is almost surreal. A little American town glowing bravely on a frozen dead planet at the end of time. It is one of the most memorable images in the chapter. Main Street, Mill Street, neon beer signs, all the ordinary brightness of 20th century life set against unimaginable cosmic death. Middletown now looks fragile, temporary, and absurdly precious. On the drive back, the emotional center of the chapter sharpens further. Keniston, nearly broken, asks what the point is of struggling when fuel and food will eventually run out anyway. Hubble's answer is grim, but bracing. Yes, if that is how you choose to look at it, then they might as well stop and freeze to death now. But he refuses that logic. There may be other domed cities, there may be survivors, there may be some way to hang on. That phrase, how to hang on, becomes the real mission going forward. The story is no longer just about discovering what happened, it is now about endurance. Back in Middletown, the chapter beautifully shows how apocalypse still has to pass through ordinary life. The people do not yet fully understand what is happening, but they are beginning to feel it physically. Bonfires are burning near barricades, the bars are crowded, ice is already forming on the park pond, and children are excited by it because they do not grasp what it means. Leaves are hanging limp in the unnatural cold. People cluster at corners, arguing and guessing. Hubble realizes that the town must be told the truth if anyone is going to do what survival requires. Keniston fears panic, but Hubble decides the risk must be taken. That decision marks a turning point. Secrecy is over. Then the chapter narrows back down to Carol, which gives all the grand catastrophe a deeply human face. Keniston goes to her house, helps get the furnace going, puts up storm windows, and fusses with the practical mechanics of heat and shelter. That detail is wonderful because it shows how the end of the world does not suspend domestic reality. Even now, someone still has to shake the furnace, fit the windows, and keep the house warm. Meanwhile, Carol senses more and more clearly that Keniston has been sparing her. She wants the truth. Before he can explain, she sees another impossible sign. The moon rising huge and monstrous in the sky, so enlarged and near-looking that it feels physically threatening. This image pushes her to the edge of hysteria. The world is no longer just colder or stranger. It is visibly, monstrously wrong. Finally, everyone gathers to hear the mayor's radio announcement. Keniston reflects bitterly that the end of the world ought to be proclaimed by thunder or archangels, not by the nervous, hesitant voice of a local politician trying to shift responsibility onto Dr. Hubble and his associates. But the mayor does say it. He tells the truth, however awkwardly. And afterward comes not immediate screaming chaos, but stunned silence. That silence is crucial. It is the silence of a whole town trying to absorb the impossible. Panic will come later. For now, there is only the terrible pause after revelation, when old reality has ended and the mind has not yet caught up. The chapter closes on Carol and Mrs. Adams looking at Keniston in fear, wanting reassurance he cannot honestly give. And that is what makes the ending so painful. There is no comforting lie left. This chapter is powerful because it destroys hope twice. First, it offers the dream of a surviving future city, and then reveals it as a tomb. Then it returns to Middletown and forces the truth into ordinary homes, ordinary streets, ordinary hearts. The story is no longer just eerie science fiction now. It has become a survival story, an emotional disaster story, and almost a biblical end-of-the-world drama all at once.